again, returned to their places, whether or not those places still fit them. Things that were merely lost could still be found, could be returned to where they belonged, because they truly belonged somewhere. A lost child might belong where they'd begun, or might belong in the world they'd traveled to. But either way, one of those places would hold and harbor them. One of those places could be home. A lost child could wander forever, destined only for the doors, could start and stop and start again 1,000 times, and still they would be lost, from the beginning to the end. Still they would be stumbling, still somehow stranded on that first threshold, in that instant between reaching out and reaching a destination. The lost understood the lost ones, for they had also begun among the Mislaid. They had that in common. They still shared the similarities carried by all the children of the doors. It was just that they didn't stop there, but continued onward, becoming something else. Something that was neither worse nor better, but was decidedly different. Eleanor West had encountered a few of the lost since opening her school, her home for wayward children. And as they shared so much with their peers, as they had all been taken by the doors, voluntarily or no, if they were among the number she believed that she might be able to help find peace, she still welcomed them. She never once turned anyone away. Unlike the doors they had traveled through, the school's door was always open for the lost and the lost alike, offering them a sanctuary for as long as they might need it. Her rules were simple, universal, and unambiguous. No solicitation, no visitors, no quests. 1. Arrivals. Eleanor's school was organized and patterned as only a school owned and at least technically operated by a true child of nonsense could have been. The divisions between her students were less about age than they were experience, and as it was rare for two pupils to travel to the same world, even when the class rosters were studied over the span of several decades, those experiences were assessed more on conjecture than established fact. This perfectly suited Eleanor's nonsensical way of thinking, which had been trained into topsy-turviness and encouraged to remain that way. So she put nonsense with nonsense and logic with logic, and assigned those labels based on the stumbling accounts of traumatized children who had just been cast out of their own personal homelands, and called it good. Was it any wonder that occasionally she got the labels wrong? Cora Miller was a temporarily land-bound mermaid who had fallen through a door that couldn't exist, a door suspended in hope and absence and shadows on the water, to find herself in a drowned world deep beneath an endless sea. The closest label in Eleanor's Book of Worlds was a lake, but Cora's trenches had been so much bigger than any lake. She had been swept out to sea, and if there was no classification for such a thing on the compass, maybe it was because the children swept out to sea so very rarely survived the swim back to shore. Cora didn't talk much about the trenches outside of therapy, but what she did say painted a land of endless tides, of predictable rhythms, of laws and rituals, and deep, powerful customs. So how was it that Eleanor, in all her experience and wisdom, had looked at the trenches and marked them as a nonsense world? And how was it that when Antoinette Ricci had appeared on the school steps of her own volition, with no parents to enroll her and no academic record to guide her placement, Eleanor had listened to her halting description of the land where the lost things go, and decided that it, too, must be nonsense? Antsy could almost see the logic there, if she squinted. The store where she'd traded her childhood for wild adventures had opened doors onto countless